Okay, quick review up to this point. You've learned law of cosines and law of sines, but do you know when to use it? When's the right moment to use what? So if you saw a problem that was like this, and it said the sides were 3, 5, and 6, does that seem like a possible triangle? Does it look like it's going to be a right triangle? No. What would the combination be that would make? It's called a Pythagorean triple. That would make a perfect right triangle. 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5 would be the classic right triangle. So 3, 5, 6 is definitely not a right triangle, but you'd be able to figure out all its sides. We already got those. All its angles. And we could figure out the area of this triangle after today. All right. Do you remember how to find the area? Base times height, and then for a triangle, it's base times height, and then what? Half of that. 1/2 the base times the height. All right. But you're going to find out how to get not only the angles. We already learned that. That would have been which tool for the job here? Law of sines? Could you use law of sines in this? No. You could use law of cosines. Everybody please write down the law of cosines underneath this problem and solve it. Well, for which one? I'm going to do something kind of annoying. I'm going to name it R, F, Q, just to make the point that you need to rename it, because our formulas doesn't have R's and F's and Q's in it, right? So can you just randomly pick A, B, and C? No. You pick C carefully. If I want to know this angle right here, you've got to pick which one should be C carefully. And then the other two, A and B, that can flip-flop, and it's no big deal. All right, I'm going to ask you in a moment to check with the kid next to you. There's a lot of people absent today for various reasons, so just check with the kid that's near you when you're done and see if you get the same angle as they did. Hopefully, by now you get the law of cosines. I'm going to put it up here just in case there's any poor kid who has forgotten this. Just to clarify, you will not be given that formula on the test. You'd have to know it. And I know there was another chapter where I kind of hinted that way, and then at the end we gave a formula sheet. There is no formula sheet for this test ever. So there's no way you're going to get this given to you. You have to have it memorized. All right, let's take a moment, figure out the red angle there, and I would rename it with different letters. Pause. Okay, now I know you may not be done yet. I'm going to give you a moment to finish, but then I want you to adjust and figure this out. If you dropped a perpendicular like that, you could for sure make it into a couple right triangles, right? Then wouldn't you have an angle and a side and a right triangle, and you can figure out everything? Take a moment and figure out the green line, because why? Because that's the height of your triangle. And then you'll be able to find the area of this triangle. Then I'm going to show you a much easier way to find the area. But you should be able to with the current tools that you have. And on that whole tool theme, there's a right tool for the job. If you'd have used law of sines, it wouldn't have worked. Like if I took this drill here and said, I'm going to cut this table here in half. Do you think I could do it? I could do it very, very slowly and painfully, okay?
This way and then it would just be straight.
I get what you're saying. You could do it, but it's not the right tool for the job, right? I mean, to cut this table in half, it'd be easy if I had the right tool. Same idea with the whole formulas thing. I'm going to give you a couple more tools. It's not like they work for every problem. For certain situations, they're just the perfect tool. But the drill isn't the right tool for cutting a table in half. There's something called a table saw that's a table that can cut other tables. Or there's also a jigsaw would work pretty good for cutting a table in half. There's more than one tool, but there's certain tools that just wouldn't work at all unless it's certain situations. Like I need to cut a hole, then it's really handy to have a drill. All right. Once you are done, I want your group, I'm going to put FK in charge. You check with these guys, and then I want you to figure out what C was, and then the green line, and put them on up on the board. I'll not have you record the video. You have to write on the board? Oh, scary.
Wait, I'm
You
trying
could,
to get it.
exactly. Pausing for, so here we go. Looks like our angle R, which in this formula would have been what letter? R is the same as C. And that's the only one that must be C. The other two could be A or B, and it doesn't matter. These two can be reversed. Why? Because if you look at the formula, if you reverse these two, who would care? It wouldn't make a bit of difference if you reversed A and B, right? Okay. Okay, so X is 2.5. That was a lot of work to find that, which now the area is easy. 6 times 2.5, 1/2 base times height, right? And that's 1/2 times the base, which is 6, times the height, which is 2.5. Okay, that wasn't that bad, but there's a lot faster way. You ready? One more formula to add to your little tool box. So you can pull it out at the right moment. The formula for this is Heron's. And it is the square root of, and this is the area, S. And first of all, what the heck is S? I know you have no chance of pulling out this formula unless I define that. But I'm going to let you try to figure out this formula after I tell you what S is. S is the semi-perimeter of the shape. Okay, it's not that hard. What's the perimeter of the shape? You guys not even remember what perimeter means? Okay, good, good, good. 14. So you just add up the sides. So what's the semi-perimeter then? Somebody smart. 7. Yeah, exactly. Because semi means half, like semicircle, half circle. Does that make sense? Okay, so semi-perimeter of this thing is 7. Why? Because we found the perimeter, took half of it. The answer is not the square root of 7, though. Does anybody know this formula right off the bat? If not, that's totally awesome, because then you can discover it. Don't go look for it. I know Google could tell you, but I want to see if you can figure it out. You times this by a couple other things. We know the area, on this one, we already did it. It's over here, and it's 3 times 2.5. 1/2 of 6 is 3. 3 times 2.5. And that's going to be 7.5. So the area is supposed to be 7.5. It's the square root of something. Let's see if you can back this out and figure out what is this going to be based on. Semi-perimeter, which again in this case is 7. Square root of 7 wouldn't be enough, that's for sure. All right, see if you can discover how to use these sides and the semi-perimeter to get the answer. I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to see how hard it is to discover something. All right, pausing for a second. Okay, so it's not just S times 3 times 5 times 6, but it's got an element of that in it, because it does depend on how long sides are. It's S times S minus 3, S minus 5, and S minus 6. S being the semi-perimeter. So, square root of 7, 7 minus 3, 7 minus 5, and 7 minus 6, which is square root of 7 times 7 minus 3 is 4, times 7 minus 5 is 2, times the last one's just a 1, so that doesn't do much. So it ends up being the square root of 48 times 2 is 7 times 2 is 24. 48, right? Is that right? Dang it. 7 times 4 is... There we go. 28 times 2 is 40. 56. There we go. Square root of 56. Okay. And what's better about this, actually?
You don't have to have 2 things.
True. What's also better about this? Do you think 7, the square root of 56 is exactly 7.5? Then how the heck did we end up getting that? You rounded this. How dare you? That means, sure, you're just pointing at all. Okay, if you're in charge, you have to take all the blame. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. This one isn't rounded. It's exact, and therefore it's perfect, as in it's the full answer. All right, let's see if you caught that. We'll do another nice, easy one with this that you know. You know the 3, 4, what's this last side? 5. And you know it's a right triangle, so I can tell you the area right now. It's 3 times 4 is 12, and then you cut it in half, makes, what? 6. The area is going to be 6. Try it once with this new way. I know you may be like, well, this is way harder. I know, but this will work for any triangle. This happens to be easy because it's a right triangle, but the way I just showed you, it'll work for any triangle. But we're doing this one because you know that the area is 6. So find the area with the semi-perimeter way. I'm going to pause for a second. Let's see if you get it right. Okay, so picking up on the recording here where I have done the work for the semi-perimeter, and that was 6, and then I put it into the formula, and these are all the sides, and then I get 6, which is what I expected to get. All right, now this one, you don't know what its area is going to be because I'm not going to give you the height. Let's say I give you, this is 5, and this is 6, and this is 7. Find the area of that triangle. Okay, so I hope you did pretty quickly this time. Semi-perimeter, which is this plus this plus this, you get 18, but then the semi-perimeter would be 9. Raise your hand if you use 9. Okay, awesome. And then it'd be 9 times 9 minus 7, which is 2, 9 minus 6, which is 3, and 9 minus 5, which is 4. Doesn't matter which order we multiply them in. And then final answer, area is the square root of 2 times 3 is 6 times 4 is 24. 24 times 9, whatever that is. Help me out. What is that? 216. And if you happen to have a calculator on you, you can get the decimal, which wouldn't be as good. Why? Because this is exact. All right. There's your area of that thing. Okay. Could you find some other way? Sure. You could find some other way. Because first you'd have to find an angle in this thing, right? And once you had an angle, then you could figure out if this was like, 26 degrees or whatever, then you could figure out how long that is, and then you could do it with the base times the height divided by 2. So there's other ways, but this is a great tool. Here's one more tool. If those sides are 7 and 8, and the angle between them is 30, then we've practiced this already. This one's a case where you would not use law of sines to figure out the last side, and the job is not to figure out the last side. The job is to figure out the area. But you might say, but wait, Mr. Server, I need to find that third side, though, to get the area. No, you don't, because there's another formula that you don't know yet, but you will. Now, this is kind of like the law of cosines and the law of sines. Did you know the law of cosines is more powerful than the law of sines because it can do everything? It's just more complicated. So it's kind of like that. The one you just did, the one with the semi-perimeter, that's the more painful one, but it works. But you've got to find all 3 sides first. Okay, this one's really quick and easy. Area is 1/2 AB sine of C. 1/2 AB sine C. And this works when you've got a side angle sandwich. A side and an angle and another side. It's like this is the peanut butter in there or whatever. Okay? So then I'm going to say area is 1/2. A must be 8. B must be 7. And sine of C must be sine of 30, which I told you to memorize. What's sine of 30? All right, it's come up like 5 times now, and it's going to keep coming up. Now, if you do this in a smart order, which is not just from left to right, it's going to go pretty easy. What's half of 8? What's half of that? And then times it by 7. There it is, 14. Boom. Could you done it the slow way? Sure. But if you rearrange it, sometimes it works nicer. All right. See how that was pretty quick, wasn't it? Wasn't that easier than the semi-perimeter thing? As long as you know the sine of 30 well. Okay. All right. There's one more. Side angle sandwich again. 12, but this time it's only going to be 5. And this is going to be a 20-degree angle. A little more annoying because you can't do sine of 20 in your head. What would be the area of this blue and red triangle? Pause for a second. You'll need a calculator because sine of 20 is not something you're going to have memorized. I can do a lot of this in my head because I can rearrange it. 1/2 times the 12 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. Sine of 20. But then I'm going to have to depend on my calculator. Pausing. Okay. Law of sines. I'm going to call on random people to fill in spots, kind of like singing a song. Happy birthday. Yeah, see, he just couldn't stop. To you. All right, so let's see if we can finish this. This is row 6. Person 3, that's you in the yellow and orange and pink and white sweatshirt. What'd you get? Sine A over equals sine over, which equals, excellent. That is the law of cosines. No, of course not. It's got sines all over the place. How about you? Next one. And then there's another one that has sine or cosine in it. Random person. This is row 5. Person 3. That's you. F, Miss F. C. It's always C. Okay. And then if the letters were R, M, and P, remember that C would have to be the angle that's between these two. Okay. C has to be the angle that's between those two. So like that's a good setup for that is like this, where you got an angle and you got a side and you got another side. You guys know this one? Okay. All right. 1, 1, root 2, sound familiar? Okay, and then there's one more formula. Herons is the name of it, or heroes is a Americanized pronunciation of the guy's name, but it does spell like that. So area equals square root of row 3, person 3. That's you in the back. That's it. And what is S defined as again? Salamanders? Semi-perimeter is correct. All right. Anybody got any last questions? All right. Then you've covered everything you need to know for this chapter test, which means tomorrow will be the review and then Friday's the test. Does that sound good? Why not? I know. Don't worry. Yeah. I was just teasing because, as you know, Friday is a little crazy because we have the whole like buyout day and all that stuff. Okay, so just a quick plug. It is for charity, and it is only $5, and you get to do this like what 4 times in your life. In college, they don't give you buyout days. Okay, so I encourage you to do this. It's fun and it raises money for charity. And last thought. If you can't afford it, there are kids who are like, well, I can't afford the $5. Well, the point of this is to raise money for that kind of thing. So it's not like we're going to say, hey, if you can't afford it, you can't have a day off. You just have to talk to somebody about that. We'll make it work so that you can go play dodgeball or whatever on Friday for part of the day. Okay. Help me understand, is it younger people in the morning?
Yeah, freshman, sophomore, first 3 hours.
Freshman, sophomore, first 3 hours.
Yeah, and then there's the Tonka Scott
Tonka's Got Talent. Is that for juniors and seniors or just seniors? Juniors and seniors, okay. It used to be there were other options for juniors and seniors, but everybody wanted to do that.
There's only like 2.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. All right. So that's all I have for you, other than telling you what your homework is. So let's take a look at the homework. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, so the first problem is on this orange page. And one thing that I'm going to note is that, yes, we're going to use 1/2 AB sine C. You know why? Because we got an angle, and we got the sides on each side of that angle. Because they even labeled them nicely with A, B, and C, but they did it in a different order. Can you do that? Here's what you have to do. You have to verify, did they really give us 2 sides and the angle that's between them? Did they or not? This triangle kind of stinks because it doesn't have a 12-degree angle anywhere, so I wouldn't use it. Instead, let's make one that has a 12-degree angle. And that's really a small angle. That's too big. It's really, really skinny. Okay, so then that angle would be A. Now, just because our formula says A, B, and C doesn't mean we can't have ever run into a triangle that has the angle at A instead of at C. But we're going to have to change its name. All right, do you get that B and C? Here's where little side A would be, over there. And it tells us B and C. So it's telling us this one, and it's telling us that one. That's a good thing, right? 128.46 and 149.70. So yeah, it gave us 2 sides and the angle between. So it's a perfect setup for this formula. And you just have to be smart enough to know that A actually in our formula should be called what? C. Okay? So just because it says sine C, don't like blindly go, okay, sine of 149.7. No. It's an angle. And the angle they gave us is 12. So this is going to be 1/2 AB times sine of 12. And these two are the sides that are on each side of that. And it doesn't matter which, of course, if you switched A and B around, it wouldn't matter, would it? Okay, cool. There you go. There's a start. Now, I have looked through this, and I've determined that seriously, every single one of these is like found somewhere on your test. Okay, so I don't want to say, oh, skip this one if it's something you got to know. So up to here, every one of these, if that one's different. What's different about this one? Just look quick. Okay, you're all obsessed with the picture. Don't look at the picture. The picture's just a pretty picture. There's no angles, and therefore the heroes, the square root one, yes, with the semi-perimeter, yes. Okay, and by the way, one of these is a no solution somewhere. Because why? Because you don't have 2 sides and the angle between them. And that doesn't mean you can't do it but you just can't do it right off the bat. So I really shouldn't call it no solution. One of these that you come to doesn't have the 2 sides around the angle. And therefore, one of those, you're going to have to take a minute and find the angle between those 2 sides using law of sines usually. All right. And then this one is the only real world problem I'm going to assign. I think it's doable, reasonable, and these, oh crap, there's one like this too. I got to assign this one. Sorry, not really a word problem, but why is it different? Because this time you got to use the A equals 1/2 AB sine C. The area is given. See, it says 110. You put the area there. And then you'll have to solve for one of the sides. Know what I mean? All right, so yeah, you should do that one too. I really can't cut this down much, but I can cut off the last 2 questions. Problem 5 and 6, you may not have to do. And those were, in theory, the longest 2 questions, so yay. But those other skills are going to be buried somewhere in questions on the test, and I don't want you to like have skipped them. And they were so different than each other. It wasn't like 3 of the same questions where I can cull out a couple easily. All right? So there you go. Now, I know some of you are getting lulled into sleep where when I say, okay, everybody take out the stuff, we're going to grade tomorrow, or whenever that happens, you're going to get caught not doing your homework. It reminds me of this story that I'll say off the video. So anyway, that's all I have for you for today.